Dear learner, welcome of your today's class of library classification practice. In your previous class, you have learned about the division of class 9002 to 950 in lesson 1. In today, you will learn about the understanding class 900 with special emphasis to the division of class 950 to 990. That is based on Dewey Decimal Classification 23rd edition. So this is your lesson 2 class, as you have already learned division of class 900 to 950. Dear learners, the next outline of discussion of today's lesson 2. We have divided this part in two sections, that is 01 discussion of 900, that is class 950 to 990 based on DDC 23rd edition. This division of 900 covers particularly 950 history of Asia, 960 history of Africa, 970 history of North America, 980 history of South America, and 990 other areas. And part 2, we have taken some examples and illustration so that you can understand this class with the help of these examples. Now, let's in lesson 1 of class 900, you have already gained idea the division of class 900. Now let's first, but your revision coverage of class 900 will be discussed again. So in the Dewey Decimal Classification 23rd edition, class 900 is dedicated to history, geography and auxiliary disciplines. This class covers a broad range of topics including historical studies, geographical studies, biographies and travel. Let's break it down further for better understanding. 900, that is history, geography and auxiliary disciplines. This is the general category that includes history, geography and related subjects. It serves as an umbrella for the subdivision below. To auxiliary of disciplines of history, that is 900 to 909. This section deal with general aspects of history including theory, philosophy, research and specific historical events. Geography and travel, that covers 910 to 919. This section focuses on physical geography, travel accounts, cartography and geographical exploration. Then history by region, that is 930 to 999. This section categorizes history based on regions, continent and specific countries. That is ancient history from 930 to 939 and history by continent and country from 940 to 999. In lesson 1 of previous class, 900 history, geography and auxiliary discipline, 910 geography and travel, 920 biography and genealogy, 930 history of ancient world, 940 history of Europe were discussed. Now today's class, the focus will be on 950 history of Europe, 960 history of Africa, 970 history of North America, 980 history of South America, 990 history of other areas. Class 950 to 959 covers the history of Asia divided by region. Each region has its unique historical focus, that is China, Japan, India, Middle East, etc. It covers both ancient civilization and modern geographical developments. It also includes colonial history, cultural transformation and political movements. Now come to the class 960, which covers this. Class 960 in the Dewey Decimal Classification covers the history of Africa, including ancient civilization, colonialism, independence movements, and modern political developments. The classification is divided by regions and countries across the African continent. 960 to 969 covers the history of Africa divided by regions and countries. Ancient civilization, that is Egypt, Carthage, Mali Empire have dedicated section. European colonization, independence movements and modern political struggles are major themes Each region's historical background and contemporary challenges are addressed. Class 970 covers the history of North America, including pre-Columbian civilization, colonial history, independence movements, and modern developments in the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Central America. Further, 970 to 979 covers North American history divided by region and country. Pre-Columbian civilization, that is Aztecs, Mayans, and indigenous cultures are included. European colonization, independence movements, and modern developments are covered. The United States, Canada, and Mexico each have detailed classification. Class 980 in the Dewey Decimal Classification 23rd edition covers the history of South America, including indigenous civilization, European colonization, independence movement, and modern political and social developments in various South American nations. Further, 980 to 989 covers South American history divided by country, pre-Columbian civilization, that is Mapuche, Guarani, have dedicated section. European colonization, that is Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, and independence movements are major themes. Modern political, economic, and social developments are included. Now come to the 990, that is history of other areas. Class 990 covers the history of region outside North and South America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. It includes Oceania, Australia, the Pacific Islands, and the polar regions, that is Arctic and Antarctica. 990 to 999 covers history outside major continents, including Oceania and other polar regions. Pacific Islands, New Zealand, and Australia have detailed historical classification. Arctic and Antarctica history focuses on indigenous people and exploration. 999 is reserved for potential future classification related to space history. Here, three screenshots from the schedule of the class 900 and its divisions and subdivision is given here for page number 860 to 862 of volume 3. It is marked in yellow color for understanding of the learners. You may also check the schedules physically to get idea about this class. Now we will see different type of examples to learn this class. So before going to assigning the class number for titles, this is a gentle reminder for you that how to build the class number. This is a 4-way technique. First, determine the various facets of the publication. Second, determine which facets can be indicated through the notation. If all the facets cannot be included, then follow the order of precedence to select the facets for inclusion. Third, arrange the facets in the proper order. It is called citation of facets. And finally, follow the add instruction. If you add here first step as determining the subject and discipline to which it belongs, and then it becomes general procedure for all sorts of number building procedures. So now come to the examples. Here is an example of class 950, that is history of India. There are two keywords in this title of the document. One is history, another is India. Now we have to check that how to assign the class number. First, we will check whether the ready-made class number is available for this title. So let's summarize the key points. First, step 1, identify key elements, that is subject history. Then geographic focus. Here geographic focus, first Asia, then India. So determine the main class. So history falls under 900. Then history of Asia falls under 950. Then India and neighboring South Asian countries comes to the 954. Then here is an instruction, that is star mark, that is add to base number 9 notation 3 to 9 from table 2. So the synthesis is 9 plus 54, that is been taken from table 2. So the class number is 954. Or someone maybe add the class number in this way. That's been 9 plus 54 from table 2, and for the keyword history, they may take the class number from the standard subdivision, that is table 1, that is -09. In that case, the class number will be 950.009. Here it is in red mark as it is wrong procedure, as schedules already instruct that here there is an instruction in DDC that if the form or viewpoint is inherent, however, there is an instruction in DDC that if the form or viewpoint is inherent in the subject itself, the standard subdivision that -09 is redundant. So in that case, it is redundant. Hence, the class number is 954, not 954 decimal point 009. And left side, there is some screenshot from the class number and it is in yellow marked. So you can check physically in the schedules. Now come to the next example. There is another example, that is history of India in the 1970s. So what you will do first? Step 1, identify key elements. Step 2, determine the main class. And 3, verify if further subdivision is needed. So first, identify key elements. So subject is history, then geographic focus, that is India, then time period. What is the time period here? The time period is 1970s. Now determine the main class. History falls under 900, history of Asia, that falls under 950, history of India falls under 954. And time period, that is 1970 onwards, it falls under 954.05. Now verify if further subdivision is needed. Since 954.05 already represents the period from 1971 onwards, no further subdivision is necessary for the 1970s specifically. If a more precise classification is needed, additional details like political, social or economic aspect could be added. Here is also the screenshot for your better understanding. Now come to the next example. Encyclopedia of Indian History. So the examples has been taken to understand the use of standards division with main class. So first, what will you do? First you have to identify the key elements. Here subject history, then geographic focus, that is India, then form the document. What type of document this one? This one the form of document, that is encyclopedia. Then determine the main class. History falls under 900, history of Asia falls under 950, then history of India falls under 954. Encyclopedias, dictionaries and concordance in history are discussed under 003 from the standard subdivision. So the verify the correct number structure. As per the DDC schedule 930 to 990, standard subdivision should be added after the geographical notation. The instruction state add to base number 9 notation, that is 3 to 9 from table 2, then add further as follows 005-006 for works like dictionary, encyclopedias and concordance. So the correct notation for Encyclopedia India History is 954.003. But in some cases, students may prepare the number in this way. First history 900, then history of Asia 950, then India 954, then add to the base number 9 notation 3 to 9 from table 2, that is India 54. Then they may add the number of dictionary from the standard subdivision, that is table 1, that is -03. But this one is wrong answer, as schedule does not permit to take the number from the standard subdivision, that is table 1. As particularly in this case, schedules already instruct you have to add the standard subdivision under the notation 3-9 from table 2, then add further as follows 005-006 for works like dictionary, encyclopedias and concordance. So the class number will be the 954.003. So learners, you will be careful when you will assign the class number, particularly this type of document for this class. So come to the next example. Now the next example is Indian history through pictures. So identify the key elements, then determine the main class, then verify the correct number structure. So here is the subject, first history, then geographic focus India, form of representation of this document, that is pictures, that is pictorial works. Then determine the main class. History falls under 900, history of Asia falls under 950, history of India falls under 954. Then pictorial works fall under the standard subdivision, that is 0-0222 from standard subdivision table 1. So before preparing or assigning the class number, you have to be careful whether any instruction has provided in the schedule here to add the number from standard subdivision. As per the DDC schedule 93099, standard subdivision should be added after the geographical notation. The instruction state add to base number 9 notation 3 to 9 from table 2, then add further as follows 005-006 for special subdivisions. So in this case, you have to add another 0 that schedule already instructs regarding this. Hence the class number is 954 0.00222. Now come to the next example. Here is another example, that is history of Bengal under the British rule. So first identify the key elements. So what is the key elements? First subject history, then geographic focus, that is Bengal, now that is West Bengal, then historical period, that is British rule. Now determine the main class. History falls under 900, history of Asia falls under 950, history of India falls under 954. West Bengal's number is 5414 from table 2, that is geographic location. Then you have to add historical period. The DDC schedule instructs that for the historical period under 930 to 990, you should add to base number 9 notation 3 to 9 from table 2, then add 0 for the historical period followed by the period division numbers. So here is the another instruction. You have to add 0 more. The class number for British rule in India is 954.03. Here, add to 0 the period division numbering following 0 from the appropriate continent, country, locality in 930 to 990. Hence, the synthesis is 9, base number is 9 plus 5414, that is the number of West Bengal. That has been taken from the table 2, then 0 as per the instruction plus dot 03. Here 0 is bracket, as you have to follow this number. That means you have to exclude this one. Hence, the number is 954.1403. Here in the left side, also some screenshot has been given for your better understanding. Now come to the next example. So next example is, dear learner, history of Muslim regions in India. It is another example to understand the class 900. Let's go through the steps systematically. Step 1, identify key elements. Here main subject is history, then geographic focus, that is India, then religious and cultural groups. Here cultural groups is Muslims. Step 2, determine the main class. History falls under 900, history of Asia falls under 950, and history in India falls under 954. Here history of specific continents, countries, localities, extensional world 930-990. Here there is instruction, add to base number 9 notation 3 to 9 from table 2. So Bengal number, that is 54. History of India falls under 954 from table 2. Then areas, regions, places in general, add to 009 the number following dash 1 in notation 11 dash 18 from table 2. Here other religions falls under 1762 dash 1769. Here is instruction, add to base number 176 the number following 29 in 292 to 299. Here we will see the number of Islam, Babism, Baha'i faith that's come under 297. Now we have to synthesize the class number. Here base number is 9. Then India for 54, that has been come from table 2. Then 009, there is instruction in the schedule, so you have to add 009 plus dash 176, as dash 1 here is a bracket, as you have to follow this one, that is you have to exclude that one, and also 29 in the bracket. The number of the Muslim is 297, hence the class number is 954.009767. Now we'll move forward little from India to United States. The next example is the United States under Jimmy Carter. So here is two keywords, that is one is United States and other is Jimmy Carter. So identify key elements. Two key elements here. One is United States. It will come under North America. Then historical period, that is presidency of Jimmy Carter. So Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States for the period 1977 to 1981. And so history falls under 900, history of North America 970, then history of United States falls under 973. Then the period 1901 towards, that's come under 973.9. Then 1953 to 2001, it falls under 973.92. Then here is the ready-made class number for administration of Jimmy Carter, that comes under 973.926. Hence, here is the ready-made class number is available. So there is no further synthesis required. Hence, the class number is 973.926. And there is some screenshot related to this class number from the schedules has been given here from the left side for the learners, and that is marked in yellow color. Now there is another example, that is Journal of Jambian History. In previous examples, we have also seen the how to use standard subdivision. Here another example has been given for better understandings of how to use standard subdivision, particularly the class number 900. Now here is a step-by-step breakdown. So first identify key elements. First subject focus is history, then geographic focus is Zambia. Third form document, it is the journal. So determine the main class. So history comes under the 900, then history of Africa comes under 960. Republic of South Africa and neighboring Southern African countries will come under 968. Then Zimbabwe, Zambia and Malawi will come 968.9. Then Zambia, the number for the Zambia is 968.94. Here is the instruction, add as instruction under 930-990. As in Zambia there is a star marks, so you have to follow the instruction in the schedule that is available in 930 to 990. So for the journals, we have to take the number, we have to add another 0. Why? As the schedule under 930-990 states, add instructed under 930 to 990, then further add standard subdivision that is under 005-006. So you have to add more 10. Hence the class number is 968.94005. So learner, for your understandings, we would clarify when 10, 20, 30 may be used or may not be used. So just listen. In table 1, every standard subdivision begins with a 0, which is essentially a facet indicator marking the transition from subject division to form division in the class number. The original rules for adding standard subdivision, though quite and simple and uniform in the beginning, have become rather complex in the face of wrapping structure of DDC. Sometimes a featured 0 may seem missing, while at others an standard subdivision may begin with 1, 2 or even their zeros. This has happened to accommodate new subjects. These oddities have been abruptly grafted rather than evolved. Some subjects have been prepositioned to usurp the heredity place of standard subdivision. For example, 344.05 is not a journal of social law 344. It is a subject division connoting law of police service. Similarly, 616.07 is not the study on teaching of diseases but means pathology. Since the place for standard subdivision have been occupied by subject division, in such cases the standard subdivision are so designated as to distinguish them from subject division to avoid confusion. This is done by denoting the standard subdivision with 2 zeros or 3 zeros as the need may be. Hence, there is no fixed formula for attaching or identifying a standard subdivision. The only formula is to follow the instruction, if any, provided in the schedules under every class number. In all such abnormal cases, adequate instructions are invariably provided for adding standard subdivision. Such irregularities have discounted a great deal the mnemonic value of the scheme, and consequently the classifier's efficiency too has been at stake. Now learner, come to the next example. So in previous example, you must remember how to use the 0. Now come to the next example. So next example, Kenya before the British. Here is another example for the class 960. So identify key elements. Here is the key elements is the geography focus in Kenya, then time period before British rule, that is before 1895. Then determine the main class. History falls under 900, history of Africa falls under 960, Central Africa and offshore island falls under 967. Uganda and Kenya fall under 967.6. Then Kenya, number of Kenya falls under 967.62. Early history to 1895, that is 967.6201. And British period falls under, that is time period 1895 to 1963. Also class at 20th century. That is the class number is 967.6203. So our title in this here, our example is Kenya before the British. So as a classifier, you have to take the number early history to 1895. Hence the class number is 967.6201. So learner, come to the next example. There is another example from Canada under Perry Elliott Trudeau. Here is identify key elements. First geographic focus, that is Canada. Then historical figure. Here is the historical figure P.E. Trudeau. Trudeau, he was the Canadian Prime Minister. So determine the main class. History falls under 900. History of North America falls under 970. Then Canada, that falls under 971. Then time period 1911 to 1999, that is 971.06. 1957 to 1999, that falls under 97.064. Then Perry Elliott Trudeau, first prime ministership from 1968 to 1979, that's fall under 971.0644. There is another number for the Perry Elliott Trudeau, second prime ministership from 1968 to 1979. That is 971.0646. Perry Elliott Trudeau, second prime ministership to 1984 falls under 971.0646. Since the classification should present the major time period, so what will be the class number here? So, since the classification should represent the major time period covered, the first prime ministership, that is 1962 to 1979, is a significant period. Therefore, the most appropriate class number is 971.0644. Come to the next example. Here is another example, that is Nebraska between the world wars. So, this is another example from the North America. So, first identify the key elements. Geographic focus is Nebraska, then historical event, that is world wars 1914 to 1945. Now step 2, determine the main class. Here history, that falls under 900, then history of North America falls under 970, then Western United States, that falls under 978, Nebraska, that falls under 978.2, and the time period, that is world wars 1918 to 1945, that's come under 0.2032. Hence the class number is 978.602. Now learner, come to the another example. This is the Connecticut during the colonial period. There are two keywords in the title. One is Connecticut, another is colonial period. Then what will be the class number? Whether ready-made class number is available or you have to assign the class number from the schedules. So the main class will be the key points here. First is Connecticut, then historical period. Historical period covers colonial period, that is 1620 to 1776. So determine the main class. So history falls under 900, then history of North America 970. Then there is a marks, just plus sign or small t, Northern Eastern United States, New England and Middle Atlantic States, that's fall under 974. And then Connecticut, there is a special indication, that is star or like T punctuation marks, that falls under 974.6. Here another instruction, add as instructed under 930 and add historical periodical as instructed under 974-975. Under 974-975, Northeastern and Southeastern United States, add to each subdivision identified these punctuation marks as follows. So colonial period is covers under 1620 to 776, that is 02. Hence the class number is 974.602. Now learners, come to another example. That is the famous New Yorkers of the 20th century. The time period cover 1945 to 1999. So first identify the key elements. First geographic focus, that is New York. Then time period 20th century, that's cover 1945 to 1999 in the title of the document. And type of work, here famous New Yorkers, that's mean it is related to biography. Biography, it is collected biography. Then determine the main class. So history falls under 900, then history of North America falls under 970. Then Northeastern United States, New England and Middle Atlantic States falls under 974. Then New York, there is a star mark and T-like punctuation marks, that is 974.7. Add as instructed under 930 to 990. Add as historical periods as instructed under 974-975. Here is another instruction. 974-975 Northeastern and Southeastern United States, add to each subdivision identified by these punctuation marks as follow. Here the 20th century falls under 043. As per the instruction under 974-975, that is famous New Yorkers, that is collected biography, that will come from the table 1, that is standard subdivision, and this number is -0922. So the synthesis for this class is 9 plus 7471 from table 2 plus 043, that is given in under 974-975 of the class number, that is available page 1107 of the schedule, and 0922 that has been taken from the table 1. So what will be the confirmed class number? So the class number is 974.710430.922. So there is another example, that is general history of civilization of people of African descent in South America. So first identify the key elements. First subject history and civilization, then ethnic group people of African descent, then geographic location, that is South America. Now determine the main class. First history, that falls under 900, then history of South America, that comes under 980, then specific ethnic and national groups, that comes under 0.0041-00049. Add to base number 980.004, notation 1-9 from table 5. So there is an instruction in the schedule. Africans and people of African descent, number is -96, that will come from the table 5, that is racial ethnic national groups. So synthesis for this class 98.004 plus 96, that is from table 5. Hence the class number is 980.00496. Here is also some screenshot for the learners. There is the last example of this class, that is in lesson 2, North Central Pacific Island during 19th century. And this example has been taken to understand the class 990. Identify key elements, that is geographic location, North Central Pacific Islands, then time period 19th century. So you have to determine the main class. General history falls under 900. History of Australia, Pacific Ocean Island, Atlantic Ocean Island, Arctic Island, Antarctica and extraterrestrial worlds will come under 990. Polynesia and other Pacific Ocean Island, that is 996. Hawaii and neighboring North Central Pacific Ocean Island 996.9. For historical periods, the number cover under 0.900, 09012, 0.900, 0905. Here there is an instruction. What is the instruction? Add to base number 996.90090 the number following 090 in notation 0901-0905 from table 1. Hence, just look the synthesis 996.900090 plus 090, that is under bracket and it has been taken out. Then 34, that means you have to exclude this number 09, you have to exclude when we will assign the final class number. Hence the final class number is 996.900-09034. After finishing the lesson 2, dear learners, here is some examples has been given for your self exercise. So after finishing this video lecture, you must or you may see this title and you must try to identify what will be the main class and how to assign the class number from the schedules. So for your recapitulates, as you have already completed the lesson 1 and lesson 2, particularly the class 900, here is the 10 examples have been assigned for your increase your self confidence. So you will remember 6 things whenever you will any title that comes under the class 900, you have to remember 6 points here. First, you have to identify the main class. Then geographic region, that means from which country the history is related. Then historical periods. Then standard subdivisions, from which subdivision it will come. Then last synthesis, the number. That means after considering all these factors, you have to assign the class number. So be careful, the learners. Now here is the some books has been given for your references and further reading. So dear learners, library classification is the backbone in the library. So as a classifier, you have to practice the library classification whenever you will get the time. As keep practicing library classification to strengthen your skills. Remember, classification is an essential for organizing information and documents in the self. So thank you, learners.